Vision needs to be seen the way it was meant to be seen. And instead of downsizing Muppet Visions like they've been doing, it used to be at California Adventure, every park, every movie-themed park should have a Muppet Vision. Now I realize I'm a grown man rallying people against the loss of a 3D film. I also realize that I am the person who made this chart right here that has proven to be right time and time again. However, I do think this scenario is a little bit different, and at this point I'm dying. I'd do anything for more attractions and more capacity at the Magic Kingdom. Almost anything. Maybe it's time to open the box. The Rivers of America are going to be filled in. There's no reason to open the box now. I know they're filling in the Rivers of America, but they're building a whole new Cars Land and it looks really good. But is that really what we hope and dream for? It might be time. What's going on, Disney? I'm asking you specifically, Disney, what's going on? Are we okay? When did we decide that closing down the Rivers of America and getting rid of a valuable people-moving attraction was a good idea? What's going on? Are we doing okay back at the office, back there in Glendale? We doing all right? Okay, I admit that was kind of mean. I do not want to be mean in this video. I want to give my perspective on the filling in of the Rivers of America, as I'm sure a lot of you have heard about by now, and why I think it's a bad idea. Not necessarily for the reasons that you might think, but certainly for a reason that you might think. The reasons are different. One of the reasons, though, is definitely exactly what you think. Taking it back though, for those of you who don't remember, or for those of you who just need a refresher, 3 weeks ago at this point, back at D23 Expo 2024, Josh D'Amaro announced that a new Cars-themed land would be coming to the Magic Kingdom, and that sounds actually kind of cool. And oh, for some reason this was like the only portion of the parks presentation that I wasn't recording, but I'm gonna sort of recreate what I did in the moment when he announced it, thanks to this video filmed by Attractions Magazine. I'll have a link in the description down below so you can go watch the entire thing, but this is essentially how it went.
All right, here goes. As we develop the next generation of Disney experiences, we're always looking for new ways to tell the stories that we all love.
Okay, all right.
Which brings me to Frontierland at the Magic Kingdom.
Oh my God, Braden was right.
The American West has always been about keeping your eyes on the horizon.
You're darn right, yeah, it has.
Carving your own path and striving towards success. That goes from miners in the mountains, bears in the country,
yeah, okay,
the princess from the bayou, or a race car from the big city.
What?
That's why I'm happy to announce
Cars in Frontierland.
Inviting Mater, Lightning McQueen to a reimagined section of Frontierland.
Why?
We're leaving Radiator Springs behind and we're heading off into the wilderness with 2 new Cars attractions.
Not really very American frontier though, is it, Josh?
The first attraction is a thrilling race rally across the frontier.
But it's not the frontier, is it? Because cars exist, and this is like at least the year 2024. It's not the frontier. I don't get it.
So you better bring your off-road tires for this one.
Okay.
And since we know how much young children love the whole Cars crew, our second attraction is geared especially for our smallest racers.
Okay, that's actually cool. Good.
Construction on this new Cars area, it'll begin early next year.
Okay, that sounds fine.
And this is going to bring some new energy to Frontierland as we continue to grow and evolve the story of what it means to explore the American wilderness.
All right, whatever you say.
All right.
This is me after the D23 Parks and Experiences presentation. I had a lot of highs, a couple of lows, but for the most part it was amazing. And I have some thoughts here once I get back to the office. And words I have, because as these sentences were leaving Josh D'Amaro's mouth and entering into my ear holes, I was thinking to myself, you're stretching the meaning of Frontierland here, my friend. Very thin, if not completely breaking it. It does not fit in Frontierland. Cars has no place in Frontierland, but I could kind of see having some fun stretching it. People don't really care that much about theming as we would think. That's why the whole Galaxy's Edge LARPing thing sort of fell through. If they make it sort of so the sight lines line up and it is still taking place within like the American West, not necessarily the American frontier, whatever. I'll probably avoid that portion of Beyond Big Thunder Mountain, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be terrible. It's just going to be kind of weird, kind of out of place. But then Monday rolled around, and it got worse, my friends. Because Josh and Disney were very careful during the park's presentation not to mention where this new Cars expansion was going. When he was saying it, I thought, okay, Frontierland beyond Big Thunder Mountain, it may not fit in Frontierland, but at least it will be far enough away from attractions like the Country Bears or even Big Thunder to sort of give it its own room to breathe. But no, that's not what's happening. It's gonna be right smack dab in the middle of where Liberty Square and Frontierland meet with the rivers of America. They were very careful not to show us this piece of concept art during the presentation, showing us what the layout of the land will be and how they will have to fill in the rivers to build it. And I've seen maybe, 3 or so different reactions to this news circulating around the internet. One, I'm really sad they're getting rid of the rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island to build cars in Frontierland. It's kind of weird, but whatever. 2, they should not fill in the rivers of America. This is a very bad idea. It's going to change the heartblood of the park. And from day one, back in 1955 at Disneyland, the rivers have played a very important role in the navigation and the capacity of the park. Disney is doing a very, very bad thing by removing these rivers. And 3, who in their right mind is rope dropping Tom Sawyer Island? Nobody cares about the rivers of America or Tom Sawyer Island. You're just sad that they're changing something in the park. Stop being a baby about it, grow up, and accept that Cars is moving in. And that third one, I don't think really gets the point as to why people are upset. So I'm going to explain why people, including myself, are upset, but I'm also going to talk about how this Cars expansion isn't really a good fit for Frontierland in the first place. Now, to be clear here, I'm not calling that third opinion or that tweet stupid. I understand what they're trying to say, and they absolutely have a point. I'm just here to share a different outlook so that people who are getting mad at people for Disney filling in the rivers and bulldozing Tom Sawyer Island can sort of understand where we're coming from. Now, the first thing I want to address is nobody rope drops Tom Sawyer Island or the Liberty Bell in the first place. Why would anybody care if these things got replaced? You don't go over there, you don't ride the Liberty Bell, and no, nobody rope drops the Liberty Bell. I mean, some people might, but not a lot of people do. But that's not the point. Tom Sawyer Island and the Liberty Bell and the rivers of America aren't there to be rope dropped attractions. They're not there so you can redeem a lightning lane to take a scenic tour around the rivers. They're there to be at the Magic Kingdom. Immediately falling back onto capacity or lightning lanes or rope dropping as your argument is a very weak look, in my opinion, because that right there tells me that you don't really care about the experience of being at Disneyland or being at the Magic Kingdom, or dare I even say, living with the land. Let's tie it back around to something that all offhand Disney watchers can appreciate and everybody knows about, the People Mover, okay? I love the Magic Kingdom People Mover. I love the idea of the Disneyland People Mover that they didn't talk about. The People Mover isn't made to be rope dropped, although, yeah, I do rope drop the People Mover. It isn't made to redeem a lightning lane. It has a relatively high capacity, but it's not everybody's first pick when they're going into Magic Kingdom for their extra morning magic hours, and that's okay. Not every ride has to be the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Not every ride has to be the Haunted Mansion or Rise of the Resistance. It's okay to have some Disneyland railroads in there, some Casey Jr. circus trains, some Liberty Bells, some People Movers, and losing one of those is a huge hit to the atmosphere of the park, but also to ways you can enjoy the park. It's not all about the coasters. It's not all about the e-ticket dark rides. Sometimes you just gotta relax in the middle of the day, grab yourself a snack, and take a voyage around the rivers of America. And people pretending like people who care about that are stupid or childish is really short-sighted and really narrow-minded. I don't really understand why you would make fun of someone for the way that they choose to enjoy the Disney parks. If you want to start your day, hit all the e-ticket attractions, and then leave, that's the way you do Disney, and that's fine. If you want to plan out every single thing in your day down to the meals and the lightning lanes you redeem, down to the minutia, that's the way you do Disney. If you want to ride the railroad around, maybe do a little bit of shopping, ride one ride, get a little snack and leave, that's the way you do Disney. These are all fine, but you can't make fun of someone who's a little upset that they're losing something that's been there for the past 50 years where they could go to relax and unwind in the middle of a very busy, very hectic parks day. We need more People Movers, not less. I've also seen some people raising the weird argument that the same people who are whining about losing Splash Mountain are also whining about losing the Rivers of America. That couldn't be further from the truth. One of these things was based on an old problematic animated movie and then rethemed to make sure everybody felt comfortable while riding the attraction, and then another one of these was just a fun way to see Frontierland and Liberty Square during the day and night if you wanted to. It's not the same thing. Some could argue that the depiction of Native Americans is problematic. If they wanted to remove that scene and do something else, they absolutely could. That's a respectful way to do it. Get what I'm saying? You kind of understand where I'm coming from here? You don't gotta fill the river in. I'm also, on the other hand, not gonna sit here and pretend that Tom Sawyer Island is one of the most heavily trafficked areas of the park. Honestly, if Disney were to make the announcement that through some magical means, somehow, they are keeping the Rivers of America, but on that Tom Sawyer Island, they are building that new Cars expansion, I'd be totally okay with that. That is the best outcome for me. I don't really care too much about Tom Sawyer Island, but the people who do care about Tom Sawyer Island are justified in being upset that they are losing it. Me personally, I'm mostly just upset about losing the rivers and the riverboat. Would building this new Cars expansion increase the capacity of the Magic Kingdom? Yeah, probably by a lot. Will the Cars expansion be a great place to hang out? Will it have 2 fun attractions and probably some decent food if they go the way of Flo's V8 Cafe for breakfast, like at California Adventure? Hint, hint, Disney? Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be really, really good. But to pave over the rivers, get rid of the riverboat, get rid of the island, I think that's sort of losing the Disney difference. At that point, you are losing what sets Disney apart from the other theme parks. You're becoming a Six Flags, you're becoming a Universal Studios. Now, not to knock on those parks, I know they have their fans. I live in Colorado, there's not much around here, my friends, let me tell you. But there's a reason we hold Disney to a sort of higher standard than the rest of these theme parks. It's because it's different. It's because it ties back to Walt's vision back in 1955. And I'm gonna pull out the chart now. Here's the chart. Walt himself even said that Disneyland is not meant to be a museum, and I get that. I understand that. I get it, and I agree, actually. If the rivers and the island and the Liberty Bell aren't getting the amount of traffic that Disney wants, from a logistical standpoint, who can blame them for wanting to fill in those rivers? If it's all about the bottom line, yeah, fill it in, put some concrete down, make some Cars attractions. And while I think it's important not to make the parks into a museum, it's also important to respect its history. In the very same presentation that Disney announced a Cars Land would be coming to Frontierland, I keep calling it a Cars Land. It's just a little area, but come on, it doesn't belong in Frontierland. In that very same presentation, Josh D'Amaro announced that they would be building the most lifelike audio animatronic they had ever built in the history of Disney parks, and it would be of Walt Disney, and it would be going in the Mr. Lincoln Show building at the Opera House on Main Street, USA at Disneyland. That shows that they respect the history of the parks, and they want to do something new while also respecting the history. That's why it's going to switch out with Lincoln. That's why it's a tie back to Walt. Disneyland, I would consider sacred ground, and it seems like Disney agrees. You can build new things, but you have to respect what came before. And I think filling in the Rivers of America just completely and leveling the island kind of feels disrespectful, and that's why I think people are upset. They're not respecting the history of the park. They can do Cars at the Magic Kingdom. Absolutely. Go crazy with Cars at the Magic Kingdom. I've seen people talking about the Tomorrowland Speedway. Go for it. I've seen people talking about Beyond Big Thunder Mountain. Go for that. I've seen people talking about rerouting the Rivers of America like they did at Disneyland for Galaxy's Edge, and then building the Cars Land around that area that's sort of been reshaped. That way we get the Cars expansion and we get the Rivers of America, albeit a bit different, maybe a bit smaller. That feels respectful. Okay, so now I've explained why people are upset they're filling in the Rivers of America, while not necessarily meaning that the Cars expansion is going to be bad. I do think that filling in the rivers is going to be a bad call. Now I'm going to explain why Cars doesn't fit in Frontierland at all. Now, Frontierland at the Magic Kingdom has always sort of been a very loose amalgamation of different types of Frontier. You had that sort of main strip with Pecos Bill and the Diamond Horseshoe. That was definitely sort of an Old West town, sort of like Rainbow Ridge at Disneyland. But then as you turned that corner near Frontierland, you passed Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain is definitely in the American South, not in the American West. You'd go past that to Big Thunder Mountain, which is much more of a Western-themed attraction. It's always been sort of a patchwork, especially with Splash Mountain, and now Tiana's Bayou Adventure sort of sitting there in the middle. Tiana's and Splash have always sort of stood out, and that's fine. The one thing that drives me a little bit crazy about the Cars expansion is that there were no cars in the Old West. There is also a car in the queue for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Cars don't exist in the American Wild West, so they're definitely stretching the frontier theming a bit thin. The attraction in that hill always has, but it hasn't really permeated to the outside of Frontierland, if that makes sense. Rally cars and race cars absolutely breaks that theming. At least Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Splash Mountain were set in the past, so it sort of helped ease that transition into the non-Western themed attraction, but Cars is set in the present, the year 2024. You think it's jarring seeing a bayou in the middle of Frontierland? Just wait until you see a flat screen TV in the middle of Frontierland. That'll really shake you up. I think Disney is really sort of doing a disservice to the Cars brand by putting it in Frontierland, and even just separating it with some sort of body of water would go a long way in helping with that theming. And hopefully we don't hear race cars zooming by while we're waiting in line for the mansion, but you never know. It could turn out good. I'm just really sad we're losing the rivers at the end of the day. But that's the entire rant I wanted to talk with you about today. I'm sure the comments will be lively. I hope we can see each other's point of view here. The rivers going away may be painful for some people. It may not matter for other people, but the people it doesn't matter to need to acknowledge the other side, and the other side needs to acknowledge the people who might have a point in saying that nobody really goes to Tom Sawyer Island. I just think it's a darn shame. It's just a darn shame, and that's all the rant narrows down to at the end. And there's more. Oh, my friends, there is more. But do I dare? Of course. What else could it be? Well, I guess we're not done here. Not yet.